Story 1. We, three guys and three girls, were all in the hot tub at this chick's house, and I dared to mash my D against her parents' bedroom window. Granted, it's like 1 a.m., and the whole house is completely dark, so I thought it would be no big deal. Get out of the hot tub, run over to the window, drop my suit, and smash my junk up against the window for a few moments. Then, in the reflective light of the pool, I catch a glimpse of her parents sitting right inside the window, watching us from inside. They didn't even blink, just watched me. It was terrifying. Terrifying. Like, I saw them for a split second as the light passed over the glass, just inches away from my mashed up D on the other side of the window. Something from a horror movie. I gasped and ran back to the hot tub, got back in, and just sat there in complete silence. A couple minutes later, her dad comes outside laughing, hands me a beer, and then reminisces with all of us for a minute about the crazy stuff he did when he was a kid. I've never felt a shock like I did when I saw their faces. It still haunts me sometimes, but it all turned out better than expected. Also, I was 25. Story 2. Probably my best, most relevant story to an askreddit ever. About a year ago, I went out with my ex-girlfriend, who I was still kind of seeing, and all of her friends, all of whom were in college. They all went clubbing, got way too wasted, especially my ex. I took care of them, and I felt pretty great about that. I really cared about that girl, and I was happy I kept her safe when she was pretty much blacked out. When we get back, I think, hey, I deserve some fun. I just took care of everyone. Let's, ex-girlfriend and I, play truth or dare with some liquor. Wake up the next morning, naked on the floor in a fur coat. I say hi, and everyone's angry and starts yelling at me. Apparently, we got so drunk playing truth or dare, I ended up in a closet, thinking it was the bathroom, puking everywhere, casually getting naked, being hostile. My inner insecurities over her friends not liking me manifested. Went from so much positive real-life karma to so much negative real-life karma in one 5-hour blackout. Bad times. Story 3. I dared to answer the door and pay for the pizza we ordered completely naked. Whatever, easy, right? The doorbell rings. I strip down quickly, and I grab the cash to pay for the pizza. But the pizza guy was not waiting at the door. It was the mom of one of the girls at the party. She had come to pick her up early, only to find me at the door naked. Her husband was a church minister. The party ended pretty quickly when she called all the other parents to pick up their kids. Good times. Story 4. I was tied to a chair in my only underwear covered in peanut butter, and they put me about 6 feet from the door and ordered a pizza. He wouldn't open the door when I was yelling at him that it was open. After about 3 minutes, he finally did, and he was pretty terrified. I told him the only money was in the pocket of the jacket hanging up, and that he could keep the change. He asked if I needed help, and I said, nah, my friends will come back eventually. I'm just really hungry. The dude set the pizza in my lap, which I thought was okay, until he left, and it started to burn really bad. I was okay. My friends all came out of hiding after he left and just busted up laughing. There's a video of it somewhere. As it turns out, I would work at that same pizza place for about 2 years. The guy who delivered it worked there and didn't recognize me until I asked him about his weirdest delivery story. I laughed for a while and told him it was me, and I did it because of a dare. He didn't really look at me the same ever again. Story 5. There was this farm party when I was around 15 years old. Everyone was told to bring different types of alcohol or they'd regret it. Guess who forgot to bring alcohol? So the person who didn't bring any alcohol had to be subject to one dare. No pussying out, no limits. Basically, I had no choice or say in the dare. I could only agree and do it. So in the middle of the party, the host, a girl who was the same age as me, shouts that it's time for bro to do the dare. She gets all her girlfriends together, and they plan the most embarrassing, exposing, devious dare ever. You have to let us blindfold you, tie you up, and do whatever we want for 15 minutes. Okay, so I know how this sounds, but let me go ahead and tell you what happened. It felt like they were putting cold water on me. They told me it was ketchup, mustard, and other stuff like peanut butter. Eventually, they started to get pervy ideas. and soon enough my pants were being pulled off. I feel the cold water again, but on my shoulder. I freaked out, mainly because they were whispering to take pictures. I'll never know if they did, but it was embarrassing as hell, and I was really nervous of nudes circulating or something. Someone said, "We still have like 10 minutes left, what else can we do?" And I hear my friend's voice say, "Lick it off." I literally thanked God for his existence right then and there, because without him, I wouldn't have gotten a BJ that night. Story 6. The only time I have ever played Truth or Dare was at a camping trip in year 6, 5th grade. One night, I was invited over to the popular tent where all of the popular boys and girls were playing a game of Truth or Dare. After about 10 minutes of watching people make out and stuff, the boy who invited me dared a girl, whom I had a crush on, to kiss me. She ran out of the tent screaming. Whilst everybody laughed, I silently excused myself and cried myself to sleep. Story 7. When I was in 6th grade, I dared to let these 3 girls tie me spread eagle to the bed, clothed, and do anything they wanted for 10 minutes. I thought they would do something sexy. Instead, they spent 10 minutes dripping different objects onto my nuts from varying heights. One girl dropped a heavy tape dispenser on my nuts, which made me cry. Story 8. It wasn't a game of Truth or Dare, but something kind of like it. You put one person in the middle of a ring of people, and they ask questions to the people around them. The object of the game is for the person in the middle to guess the rules of the game. Everyone else already knows the rules. So, the rules of the game are pretty easy. 1. When asked a question, you answer to the best of your ability for the person next to you. 2. If the person answering for you gets it wrong, you say bullcrap, and the side that you are answering for reverses. Instead of answering for the person on your left, you answer for the person on your right. So, needless to say, things got strange right away. The girl in the middle was getting creeped out and confused. I remember she asked, "How big is your penis?" And I answered for the girl sitting next to me, "I don't have one, duh." So she's getting really frustrated. Finally, she turns to her brother, who was also playing. She asked him, "Have you ever had a sexual fantasy about me?" He takes a very slow look at the guy sitting beside him, turns back to her, and completely deadpan he replies, "I'm having one right now." We had to stop playing after that. Story 9. I was right at the beginning of middle school. We were starting to play Truth or Dare at birthday parties. We were playing a variation that I think in the US is called 7 Minutes in Heaven. Anyways, I think it was my turn for the heaven thing. I was so rooting for the beautiful girl I had a crush on. Instead, it gets to a really weird-looking girl I wasn't attracted to at all. In my head, I'm really let down. This girl wasn't attractive at all. Suddenly, the girl starts bawling and runs out screaming, something along the lines of, "Not with him!" Yeah. Story 10. Playing in a group of girls, all around 13 to 14 years old. The most kind-hearted girl there with the sweetest face, cute little curls and freckles, dared to take a dump on a plate in front of the rest of us. No hesitation, just giggles. "Okay, where's the plate?" The girl whose house it was then proceeds to keep said plate in the basement freezer for a couple of weeks. For science? Until her mom finds it. I don't know if they kept the plate. Edit for clarification. Occurs to me now that took a dump might be an American colloquialism. It means she took a crap. By no hesitation, I mean the daree did not hesitate to agree. There was a good 10 to 15 minutes of, "Oh man, are we really going to do this?" going upstairs to get a plate, giggling, and the girl starting in a corner with her back turned. I believe she did like a half poo on the plate, then went to the bathroom to finish up, and, clean herself up. Some of us watched more than others. I think I got a glance for a few seconds and decided that was enough for me. I was also a teenage girl at the time. Still a girl. I don't think she would have done this with guys present. There is no good or psychologically sound reason to have kept the plate. Story 11. My girlfriend and I took a set of Jenga blocks and etched the word truth or dare into the blocks, and a number that corresponded with either the truth sheet or dare sheet. Each sheet was a list of truths or dares, all of them mildly humorous on paper, but devastating in reality. Questions like, When was the last time you faked an orgasm? If you haven't or can't recall, fake one now. Or, what's the strangest thing you've ever done? If nothing unusual, smell the finger of every person in the group and describe the smell. Dares like demonstrate your favorite sexual position with the person on your left. Or, let me tattoo your right thigh. I have almost no tattoo experience. Among the truths and dares, there were 5 group choices in each category. Any truth or dare could be declined by a shot, and if anyone intentionally knocks over the tower, they have to lick the left nipple of all same-sex players until the nipple is erect. Losers have to take a shot and do a group choice dare. This game nearly broke up 3 couples. In the picture above, the girl eating the sunchip out of my butt is the guy on the right's girlfriend. The questions were too real, too raw, and resulted in people walking out of the room. But at the same time, it was like a train wreck. They kept coming back. At first, you decline so many of them by taking a shot. But after 7 shots, you're answering what the sluttiest thing you've ever done was, right next to your girlfriend, who decided that she's going to truthfully answer the last time she faked an orgasm. It was brutal. Everyone ended up naked and in the snow. All relationships are still intact, but in the way that people who survive a disaster sometimes stay in touch. TLDR, Truth or Dare Jenga, Adult Edition. Story 12. When I was still in high school, we played Truth or Dare at a public jacuzzi, but we were young and horny, so we played a more adult version of Truth or Dare. So 3 of my friends and 3 other girls who were all attractive. It was a win-win situation. It all started with me. One of the girls dared me to take some sugar, which she strangely has in her car, and lick it off her friend's tongue, who has not shown up to the party yet. I was stoked AF. I was betting this girl was going to be super attractive. 5 minutes later, she walks in. I quickly turned to check her out with a smile. My smile died quickly. She was extremely unattractive. Her breasts were in different directions, and her face looked like a cow. She walks in and says, "Sorry, I was smoking a cigarette." They quickly inform her of the dare, and she agrees rather quickly. I'm trying to stall time. I even called my dad to pick me up, but he never answered. Everything was set. She had the sugar on her tongue and was waiting. There was no getting out of it. I walk over and look at her mouth. I see her teeth are yellow and smelled like cigarettes. I went in for the deed. Then she breathed the most atrocious smelling breath I have ever smelled. The smell was so horrific I threw up all over her. I quickly apologized and ran out of there. TLDR. I dared to lick sugar off of an unattractive girl's tongue and threw up all over her in the process. Story 13. Back in high school, we were at a party, and the truth or dare we played turned sexual rather quickly, and one of the girls dared to blow one of the jocks there. She agreed, and they went to a bedroom to complete the dare. All of a sudden, we hear a scream, and the girl comes out a few seconds later with blood all over her face. Turns out, the girl had braces and somehow got caught on his junk, tearing a dime-sized piece of skin off of his D. One of the other jocks at the party got to hold his buddy's D while the ambulance came so he wouldn't bleed out. Fun times. Story 14. In Berlin, a friend of mine had to walk through a graveyard with his pants pulled down pretending to be a dog. The funniest part was when there was a couple sitting on a bench minding their own business, when suddenly this stoned guy walks up to them, barks at them while having his pants pulled down, went to a little well right next to them, started drinking water like a dog, then went back to them, barked again, and then just sat there for 2 minutes staring at them. Eventually, he began to run away, but fell over his own pants. Story 15. At a party a while back, we were all 16 to 17, and we're all getting drunk in my friend's barn, which is away from her parents' house. We start playing Spin the Bottle, pretty tame stuff, and everyone starts losing interest. However, the girl whose party it was, and my friend, did not lose interest, and kept playing until they thought we'd all gone to sleep. They then proceeded to have the nastiest, loudest, and teeth-bashing, gropey, horrible sex you can imagine. For hours. I don't even know how, but we were all awake and we could all hear it. It was so loud that you couldn't sleep. Their looks of shame in the morning, though, were probably worth it. The guy still gets crap for it a year later. Story 16. When I was about 10 or 12 or so, one of my friends had a big house and would throw infamous all-night sleepover parties for his birthday, where we would do stuff like videotape our Wayne's World parodies or play with Nerf guns under blacklight. Stuff like that. His parents had a hot tub in their bedroom. I know, weird. So one year we all wanted to get in it. No one had a swimsuit because who puts a hot tub inside? So we all went in with our whitey-tighties on. We played Truth or Dare, all 5 or 6 of us boys. Nothing sexual, so if you're disappointed, sorry about that. But the funny thing that this leads up to is our tradition of hazing the first guy at the party who goes to sleep. We had all removed our underwear to dry and went commando under our shorts. And one guy got sleepy and went to sleep first. We put his wet underwear in the freezer, poking it with a fork every few hours to make it take the perfect shape. Around 7 a.m., we put the frozen underwear helmet on his head, put sunglasses on him, and put a Minnie Mouse umbrella above his head. Got the camcorder rolling as we woke him up and called it John's Day at the Beach. Story 17. I was ordered to play 7 Minutes in Heaven at a party as a dare, and they would pick the girl. I was blindfolded and placed in the bathroom. Minutes went by, but the guy who put me in kept telling me to stay in there and be quiet. After some time, the door opened, and I felt a body shoved against mine. It was a girl, I could tell, so we made out a bit. I started feeling her up and ran my fingers through her hair. It felt familiar somehow. I traced her arm and felt her watch. I touched the fabric of her shirt. It was my shirt. The girl was completely clueless, but I understood that the girl they had picked to get in there with me was none other than my big sister, who was at the same party but not in the game at the same time, and the others likely pulled her from whatever she was doing to do this. She was still into it though, ran her tongue in my mouth and squeezed my bottom. I pushed her away and ran out without a word. People were laughing hysterically outside. I felt devastated. She found out what happened and she made everyone involved, including me, swear not to tell anyone about it. She can be very aggressive and intimidating when she wants to be. TLDR, the most nightmarish game of 7 Minutes in Heaven imaginable. Story 18. Not exactly Truth or Dare. We played poker with dares as tokens. You wanted to win the most because the dares were then yours to give to other people. Anyway, long story short, we forced our friend to ask out his crush in the third person while referring to himself as Spango. Story 19. This is more horrifying for my sister than me, though I wasn't too happy myself. I played a game once when I was 10. No girls. We clearly didn't understand the purpose of the game. We mostly stuck to the truth, asking questions like, "Who do you like?" and "Have you ever stolen?" Dumb kid stuff. Then one boy, let's call him Martin, asked Donald, the street-rapping gangster meteorologist, that is how he referred to himself, I kid you not, if he chose Truth or Dare. Donald chose to dare. Martin, for whatever reason, dared Donald to strip down completely nude. We all shouted no, but Donald said he honored the dare and began stripping. He got down to his stained briefs and just began to show some of his pelvic region when my 8-year-old sister came in the room to ask what all the screaming was about. She saw her first dingus at age 8. Story 20. One night after a trivia night at a local bar with a bunch of former band kids, my friends and I decided to go see a movie. We make it all the way to the movie theater only to realize that it's closed. It's like midnight though, so how we didn't realize this was beyond us. But we told our parents we were getting home late, so we had to pass the time somehow. We drove around for a bit and decided to play a game called pittle, where every time you see a car with a head or taillight out, you say pittle, and the last person to say it has to remove an article of clothing. We all end up in our underwear, with one girl only in a bra, and decide to go to McDonald's for some fries. When we get there and order, and realize that order is taking a long time, the front passenger looks in the rearview mirror and screams after seeing the driver behind us was signaling with her hands 911. We all freak out and park and rush to get our clothes on, just before 3 cop cars arrive. Being the only one brave enough to talk to them, I found out that apparently car passengers are a sign of use, and workers are required to call the police if they see this sort of thing. Luckily, we were all clothed, and the cops were friendly about it. They just wanted to make sure we weren't high as a kite. We all get back in the car and get going, when the guy next to me pipes up, "Damn, I'm glad they didn't ask for ID. I'm only 15. This was the first any of us, all 18 plus, had heard of it.